Hey, what's up, Isolation Nation? It's been a big week, let's face it. It's been crazy, pretty gnarly all around the world, in New Zealand, in our regions. We've all had a bit of a ride, and I thought, why not get the thoughts from the public? So a bit of a different format today. We had a few guests on the show over the past week or two who gave their insights into business, but this one's more relaxed. It's less formal. It's more about getting people online and feeling comfortable speaking to the masses or the few people I've got watching the podcast, and just to hear their story or their thoughts on anything that's going on. It's been pretty crazy to see the developments over in the countries such as America, Italy, China, Spain, and just seeing how all the different leaders have been dealing with this issue at hand. I guess in our generation, at least, we've never faced anything like this. We've had the global financial crisis in 2008. That was a funky time, but this one's different because in 2008 it was caused by financial institutions, and it was just a bit of a mismanagement of money from the people at the top. This one, no one could have predicted, no one saw it coming. It's more of a health epidemic per se. So when it comes to that, when it comes down to that, I guess it unites people because crisis brings people together. People need something to fight against, and when as the saying goes, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. So this show is a bit different. What I'm going to do is share a link on the description on the Daily Jase Facebook page, and I'm just doing that now on the post that we're making. And if you're in this, even if you're just watching, can you just give a wave, say hi in the comments, just so that I know who's around. And yeah, it's just a lot friendlier when you're on the podcast and see who's playing the game and watching the video. If it's not your game, or if you're a bit shy, that's all good too. So just to get the ball rolling, I've invited my brother along because he's the man, and I'm really tight with him. He's a good bloke, and he's a smart guy. We grew up together, obviously, and I've got a lot of respect for him. And I think it's cool that other people share their stories as well, and jump onto the online world and just have a yarn, you know. Oh, my crack up! My father's here as well. David Hart, what a champ! Love him to bits. So the links in the comments now. So if you want to jump on, all you have to do is push that link, and it'll get you into the back end of the software that I use. And then once we wrap up with one guest, it'll allow for another guest to jump on. So pretty gnarly stuff. So the first guest on the show, the one and only, my blood brother, my brother from the same mother, Samuel Hart. How are you, mate?
I'm good.
Yeah, what's happening?
Sorry?
What's happening?
Had a bit of a workout this morning, and I popped on to say hello to you in between that and going to the supermarket.
Bro,
Supermarket's a funny one. I don't know if I dread it or look forward to it. Sort of like something to do in the weekend.
Matching isolation beds.
Imagine isolation what?
Matching isolation beds.
Beard, yeah. I'm thinking of giving the beard a bit of a shave and leaving it alone.
Yeah. Crack up. You're a little bit early for November.
Well, I need all the head start I can get, to be honest.
Yeah. No, you've got a bit of a effort going on there.
Yeah.
Is this the longest you've grown it?
Huh?
Because you've got to shave for work, right?
I don't know. It's a grey area. What facial hair is permitted at work? There's like at our workplace, there's sort of like a there's a dress policy where you can dress for your day. Oh, my camera lighting is really bad. Where you can sort of dress for your day, but they never talk about facial hair. So it's sort of that grey area where if it's tidy, it's permitted. So I'm just trying to fix this up.
Yeah, your camera's really funky.
There we go.
Yeah.
I'm looking a bit less albino now.
Yeah, you look human now instead of a ghost.
Yeah, if it's permitted, if it's tidy, I suppose. I don't know. It's a bit gnarly, but
good on you,
I'm
mate.
not going into the workplace anytime soon, so it's all right.
So, mate, for the people out there who don't know you as well as me, give a quick 5 of what you're all about and your background.
So my name's Sam Hart. I am Jason's younger brother by 5 years?
4 years. Come on, mate.
4 years. 4 years. Sometimes it feels
How long
like
have we known each other for?
It's a good question. 23 years old. Just recently graduated from Victoria University with a Bachelor of Laws and a Bachelor of Commerce, majoring in public policy. I now work as a law graduate at Simpson Grierson, one of the firms in New Zealand. Particular interest in public law, policy, and dispute resolution.
Mean. And what do you like to do in your spare time? This one's a little less professional, this call-in show. What's the real Sam? What does
he like to do in his free time? I've always been really musical. So for a lot of high school and university, I was playing trombone. No longer play trombone that much, but in lockdown, I've been picking. Sorry, I just see the cat here. Been picking up guitar a bit. Usually, I like hanging out with people. That's not really happening right now.
Yeah. How are you keeping connected?
That's funny. I've been having virtual catch-ups with so many people, and especially family. I feel like I'm talking to them more now.
Yeah, we never heard from you before.
Yeah, we never did this before.
And now you're talking to the whole world through podcasts. Boom. So what's your isolation experience been like? You've been enjoying some of it, none of it, all of it?
So I went into isolation, into lockdown 2 days before the lockdown actually started. I haven't left Broadmeadows since Monday, 3 weeks ago.
Broadmeadows is in, for the people who don't know where it is. Yep, sweet.
You can either call it North Kandala or South Johnsonville. It's sort of in those northern Wellington suburbs.
Boom, Jayville.
Yeah, up on the hill. What's really nice about Broadmeadows is that we have Mount Kaukau. We're literally at the foot of Mount Kaukau. And so when it's a nice day, it's not a nice day today, although I can see blue sky. Whenever it's a nice day, it's really nice to walk up there. And you can sort of see all of Wellington and sort of give a wave to the city that you haven't been in for 3 weeks.
That's the one. Nice one.
But apart from that, lockdown's been good. Sorry, what were you going to say?
What's on your post-isolation bucket list?
Oh, I definitely am looking forward to level 3 and being able to. It's funny, I've been saving quite a bit while I've been living at home, and I feel like I will actually do some online shopping, and also it'll be nice to if I'm ever just having an off day, just to be able to get takeaways instead of at the end of the days aren't really long with no transport, but at the end of the day I can go and sort of get takeaways instead of make dinner myself. That'll be quite nice. At the end of isolation, though, at the end of when we get into level 2, level 1 and beyond, it'll just be nice to see friends again, to be able to go out for a drink. Virtual meetups are cool. Zoom has been fantastic, but it's not the real thing.
Yeah. Haven't had any funny Zoom stories?
Last night was quite funny.
What happened last night?
On the Zoom call was me, my mother and mum's partner, John, my grandmother and my grandmother's best friend, Irene. And there was that quite. It was there was this sort of like intergenerational technology gap that really sort of showed with trying to set up Zoom. So we had sort of.
Always happens.
We were sort
Zoomers
of
trying to be Zoomers is one of my mates.
We were sort of calling Irene on her landline because they still exist now, telling her what to do on the Zoom, and then she had set up her audio. Sorry, she had set up her video, but not her audio. So somehow we got her to be speaking into her landline, but we got her video on her telephone. Anyway, it was it's sort of one of those things that you just wouldn't happen apart from that.
One of those Zoom stories to laugh about, right? Mate?
Yeah, because you have to laugh.
Absolutely. I love the carnage. Like, I love a little bit of dysfunctionality because it's pretty funny sometimes.
Yeah,
we've got Sam, we've got to wrap this up because we've got another caller on the line. It's been awesome to quickly chat. You've definitely come out of the cave to ring the family a bit more, so it's pretty cool. Hopefully we keep up the connection after all this lockdown breaks up, right?
Sweet man.
Sweet, bro. Cheers. Take it easy. Yo, Lawrence.
How you doing, brother?
Very, very good. Very good. I know it's like a bit taboo to say very good in times like these, but that's how I'm feeling today. How you been?
I'm good, man. As you said, it is strange to say you're good and well, and you're stable and so forth. But it is an interesting time, and how things are working, how things are going at the moment with the world and New Zealand and lockdown and so forth. So, but it's an interesting place to be if you're in the world of social media, in the world of producing content, podcasts, as you're doing yourself and myself, because it's the opportunity for people out there to consider alternative options of putting stuff out there. There's a lot of knowledge that's sitting at home at the moment. Unfortunately, due to the situation, there's a lot of skills sitting at home, not being utilized by people that have been in careers for years and years and years. And I think with some guidance and some assistance from people who know how, those skills and guidance, those skills and insights can get put online and help other people as well.
Absolutely.
And that's where I've been trying to help a lot of the New Zealand market over the last few weeks. I've got an 8-week course to anyone that doesn't know anything about myself. Lawrence Lotz, I host the Wolf of Queen Street podcast series, entrepreneurship podcast series running for the last 14 to 15 months. And I've just launched an 8-week course that takes anyone through how to launch a podcast, how to be successful, and everything you need within that. And funny enough is in January when I wanted to launch it, put it together, package it, price it, and then all of this happened, and I can't stomach to charge anyone for this course. So I've just been giving away this course for free to people at the moment.
Wow.
So it's a $500 course, and I've just been giving away for free. I'm going, if you need it, I've got about 6 people already that's are going through the course at the moment. They're from people that are looking at alternative options to people unfortunately have lost their jobs. But I feel it's the right thing to try and help people stand up during this time.
What's the link to that? Let's bring it up.
So at the moment I don't have a link directly to that for that free course. It is people can contact me.
People find it?
So that people can contact me directly on Facebook under Lawrence Lotz, either under my personal Facebook page or Lawrence Lotz, my business page, and just say, hey, look here, you've seen me on the show. I'm interested in to find out more about the podcasting, and I'll take them through the journey. It's an 8-week course. It's literally, as it is a free course, I can give you about 85 to 90% of what I would normally do on my paid course. There's a few components within that I actually pay out of my own pocket to do certain services. I provide guidance, and unfortunately, you got to take the next step. So it is as close to the full program as I can. I started the first round last week already with 3 people, and I'm about to start a second round of people, hopefully with between 3 and 4 people this week, and then I'll do another one next week. And it's a full, I hold your hand through the whole process. So even if you have no idea what you're doing, don't worry, I can help you out.
Bro, you keep finding ways to earn my respect. Like, that's so cool.
Oh, man, you got
it up now.
Cool.
So that's your Facebook page, your professional one?
Yes, that is my That is my professional page. At anyone at a later stage or that's watching now, by all means, can go in there and either give me a like and send me a message, or if my personal Facebook page as well is pretty wide open. But obviously, as we're trying to build a brand, I would prefer you going through my business page. Hit me up if you like. Say you've seen me on the show, so I can tell Jase it's some of his audience. And I'm looking to start another round. Like I said, I start a round every week, and it goes for 8 weeks. We do. Oh, did I lose you, Jase?
No. I'm still here. I'm just focusing on you.
Yep.
You're
focusing on me. Focusing on me at the moment.
We got
there
the
we go.
technology going. See, we can switch it up. We can do a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah,
right?
look at that.
So,
yeah, I need to learn from Jase more on the technology. So he's outsmarted me on some of this technology now.
I've learned a lot from you in the past, so I'm happy to share some knowledge.
Yeah, so it's pretty much there. And to anyone out there, I've got a kid's sense of humor. I enjoy having fun and having games. Just if anyone would go around and have a look at my TikTok as I'm trying to produce at the moment, I'm bald because I felt like shaving my head off in lockdown and shaved my beard off and so forth. I do all silly things. So nothing serious. Everything is quite light humor and fully support. As Jase would say, I give away everything I know. I give away all the knowledge. So I'm hoping I can help more people, even if it's one person, through this time and period.
And how's life been on your end? Like, how have you found isolation?
It's been all right. I'm lucky in the sense that I live out in the countryside, so I've got a bit of land, I've got a bit of space. I'm always, I think I picked it up from my father, I'm always quite happy in my own sort of bubble and space anyway. So obviously there's a few moments of stir crazy of wanting just to get out the house or get off the property. But it hasn't been too bad. I can imagine that there's a lot of people out there that are having a bit of a struggle, that are smaller, compacted areas, highly dense residential areas, and makes it quite struggling. So we just got to think about that. And a big thing, I actually did a podcast the other night and spoke about it, is we just got to reach out to people more often. So obviously Zoom, Skype, has gone through the roof as a functionality or technology. But don't be shy to do it on a daily basis, to reach out to your friends, make sure they're okay. New Zealand as itself is one of the highest problems in the world with mental health problems, suicide, teenage suicide, big topic. And at the moment especially, so I try and tell everyone I know is just contact, call, reach out to some of the people you might think might be having a bit of a struggle. They might not. And it's sometimes, as much as we want that person to ask for help, we have to be a bit proactive and go, I think in that situation, that person's going to be struggling. So I'm just going to reach out, not lead into that, but just reach out and say, hey, how you doing? Give them 5 minutes of my time, because even that 5 minutes of the time could give them a spark to get out of a funk or spark to get out of a mental thought for the day, because they've got nowhere else to go. And we just got to, help us through that journey.
Yeah. I think it's so true. And it's a good message that you just put forward on the table. And I think that unfortunately the stats will reflect that our mental health issues will be at the forefront once we've dealt with the physical health issue at hand. We'll have to deal with the ramifications of people losing jobs, people having issues at home, people just there's going to be a lot of complexity that comes with what's happened, and that will lead into mental health a whole lot more.
Yeah, it totally will, but also it would lead into a lot further opportunities. The challenge at the moment is to try and tell people to see through the situation. I know we don't know what the next steps are looking like, but there is a lot of opportunity that will come from it. There's a lot more streamlined process, there's a lot more initiatives that we start up. Look at the example, again, I spoke on the show just this week, how many people at the moment that are still training, are still doing their boot camps, are all doing this virtually. I know my wife does, and there's 30 or 40 people on that virtual boot camp every single day, 3 times a day. So look at that initiatives. Look at how many of us that are working from home or doing stuff from home across social media. And we're going to realize that the way of working, as much as it's been stopped, it won't go back. So we've got to take the positives and the learnings from the situation and evolve it into something that's beneficial to us all, or beneficial to your story or your journey that you want to do. So that it's, whether it's, like I said, it's whether it's taking the skill that you have and that you've been unfortunately put at home and package it up and go online and teach other people and give webinars or give podcasts or do live shows that we're doing at the moment and talk through whether it's recruitment, business, how to build a house as a builder, or give guidance, how to, renovations, even in sales and so forth. There's so much knowledge that's been held by all of us in between our 2 years. We've got to go and be willing to share that. And one of the biggest things I teach and I mentor other people are, and a lot of people are sometimes afraid about it, is they go, Lawrence, what happens if I give away all my skills? What happens if I give away everything I know? And one thing I truly believe is there is only one of you. There's only one Jase. There's only one Lawrence. No matter how much of I give to Jase and how much of Jase gives to me, of all our knowledge, we'll still only be each other. And I truly believe that you can give everything away and you would still be the best version of yourself. No one can be you.
Yeah, the strongest product that you can make is you, right?
Correct. Totally agree.
For you sort of live and breathe in this world online, and you love doing podcasts. I love it too, and it's a lot of fun. For those people who haven't done it before, it's quite a big mental jump going from the offline world onto the online world, putting your thoughts and ideas out there, putting a business into the world. Even a project doesn't have to be a business, maybe a piece of art, and just sharing something that they've created. It's quite scary when you first jump on. What advice do you have for people there?
It truly is. I mean, starting a business as a brick and mortar, or starting a normal business where you're just running it as a day-to-day, as we did months and months and months ago. I've gone through multiple companies, and I can say I've gone through multiple companies and failed multiple companies and have had success as we've all had. It is daunting for someone that doesn't run their life on one of these. It is daunting for someone that doesn't run their life on a computer or behind that. But the interesting thing to see at the moment is the main consumption of content today is virtually, because of our situation, and will continue that way. So business models will go down that path. LinkedIn is all lives, video, education, webinars, podcasts, radio shows, even going virtually now as well. So it is daunting, but if you have the best framework and support team behind you or knowledge behind you, it makes it easier. And that's the sort of stuff that I try and help the people I take through my program. I've got some people on the show that have, or going through the program, that have no understanding about technology, and I make sure I hold their hand through the whole process. So I say, okay, we set this up. This is the reasons behind this. This is how we're going to utilize this tool or application, and this is the reasons we're doing it. But fundamentally, the biggest learning you have on a podcast, and which I say, is we don't have to be perfect on day one. We don't have to have the perfect show, the perfect manner, the perfect tools, the perfect hardware on day one, because fundamentally we are an imperfect society and we don't like perfection. We like imperfection. Reality TV just shows that. It's reality TV is, to most people it's cringeworthy, but yet we all watch it because it's imperfect. And that's where we need to remember that when we do something, being imperfect is being special.
Yeah, I heard this quote somewhere. I've gone down the line somewhere, and it said, "If you wait until your product is perfect, you're too late."
Truly believe with that. I just did a post this week on my private group, and I talked about MVP. So I brought some technology, actual infrastructure technology, software development terminology into my group. So we spoke about the MVP, which means your minimal viable product. So what it means is, what is the minimum piece of you need to let this business start? So your minimal viable product. So with the podcasting, fundamentally, the minimum you need is yourself, something to record an audio with, and a hosting platform to distribute it. That is the minimum viable product you need for a podcast. Understand that, start it, and then evolve with a feedback loop to your next version. And a feedback loop is where a lot of people forget in modern businesses, where we're virtual at the moment, is we forget we've got an audience. We forget there's 1,000 people on the other side. On YouTube, you forget that if you got 300 views, you've got 300 people actually standing there watching your content, sitting there, listening there, or whatever they're doing. And we got to respect that audience, because sometimes we forget about them, because they're the ones that are going to make us a success or not me and not you, Jase. It's the audience that's going to drive us. And we've got to listen to what they have to say. And if they say, this isn't good, I don't understand, I need further clarity, you got to accept that as part of your learning to go, great, let's evolve to a second version or a third version of what I'm doing in my content, because I'm listening to my audience. And I use the example of a comedian. If a comedian stands on stage, virtually or physically with a crowd, and he doesn't let the crowd, if the crowd don't find him funny, he won't be a successful comedian for longer. But he does have to go out there, try his content, see what they come back with. And he goes, okay, 5 out of my 10 jokes, people laughed at. So those 5 jokes work. The other 5 jokes I'm going to remove. And the next time around, he goes, I'm going to use my 5 jokes that are funny, and I'm going to add another 5 that I think I'm going to try. And we go on and we go on and we go on.
For sure. I think there's a few points you touched on. The first one was about how you want to ship before anything's perfect. And even if from the outside a business seems perfect, it never is. People are always trying to improve the business. There's always competition. There's always things to do, little adjustments here and there. And it's over time, when you've made those adjustments, that the product becomes wholesome. But like anyone, if you think of like the business as a person, you never have the perfect person. They've always got downfalls. There's always things that they can improve on. So I think it's just that kind of thinking. You always want to improve. There's going to be problems along the way. The people at the top, they're very strategic at coming up with solutions with the resources they have. Yep. I think that's the difference. You know?
Totally. I tell a lot of people, if you're perfect on day 1, you're not going to be perfect on day 2. Because you can't be perfect 2 days in a row.
Yeah.
So
the second point you touched on is, if you haven't got that many viewers to begin with, like it doesn't even matter. You shouldn't be making it to like get 1,000 likes, 10,000 likes. Do it for you. Do it for what you enjoy. Put content out there, and then the crowd will slowly come. You know, but don't do it for the crowd, for the numbers.
Yeah. It is my personal opinion around that. There's obviously 2 chains of thoughts. There's people starting online, whichever format you're going to go, because they want to become successful, rich, and famous. They want the Ferraris, the suits, and so forth. But a lot of people don't realize that 99% of what you see on Instagram is rented or hired. Sure. And then there's the other people that want to go out and then inspire, help, and improve society, irrespective of if it means wealth or so forth. And that's a big thing of what I pushed the Wolf of Queen Street podcast series, and a lot about my personal brand was to help and inspire others. I don't make revenue per se off that. I don't make a salary off that whole brand, and I spend 10 to 20 hours a week on it. But I do it because it helps people. And I think the true people with the true integrity and soul at the moment are the ones that are going to be successful, because they're going to come out, they're going to help, they're going to hold hands, they're going to help people through this. And in 12 or 18 or 2 years time, when they finally do turn around and go, okay, I'm going to try and do a business that includes revenue from it, their fan base that have had their support to the whole process would totally accept it, would totally acknowledge it, and totally take it on. Because at the moment, it is distasteful when I go on Facebook and I'm seeing all these little pop-up e-commerce, these pop-up, inspiring people, and they go, yeah, I'm going to help you, and you're going to have to pay me $100, $200, $500, $1,000 for you to be inspired by me at the moment. It's like, sorry, mate, or guy or girl, whatever.
Especially when people are hurting.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, people are hurting. People are financially hurting. People are mentally hurting, and then you want to go and say you want to hang that bait there, and then go, okay, but you got to pay me. Sorry, it's just not the way a honest society should work.
Yeah, and there's a lot of fear-mongering at the moment, and I think, unfortunately, people will financially benefit off that sort of wave. But after all this blows over, people will see through that, and it'll almost people will look back and think, okay, that person did that nasty thing, or not even nasty, like they just showed a certain side of their personality. I think,
Yeah.
like obviously people are going to come up with ways to make a side hustle if they've been made redundant. I get it. You need to be like financially stable, and it's hard in times like these. But like you just got to do it in an ethical way. And I think we're quite lucky in New Zealand, especially, that when the going gets tough, the nation becomes really cohesive, and we're aligned with trying to beat this thing, helping the community out, helping your neighbors out, your family, your friends, keeping in touch with all those people just to make sure everything's all right. And collectively, we come out of this relatively unscathed.
Yeah, I was having a long discussion with a friend last night about it. We're going to come out of it. We're going to come out of it soon, hopefully. What that means and what it looks like, no one knows, and I don't think we have any impression. Will we ever get back to normal? I think the bar normal has shifted indefinitely for the rest of our lives.
So what kind of things do you think has shifted indefinitely?
So let's talk about New Zealand specifically. I'm not going to go into other countries. I'm not based there. I don't follow their politics and their economy as much. New Zealand itself, once we do come out at a certain period over the next handful of weeks into the next month, let's say per se, there's the biggest decision of whether we open our own borders. We might be secure, safe. We might be having no challenge with COVID-19 in a month's time. But the rest of the world is still going through it. The rest of the nations are out there, America, Europe, into Asia. We don't know the integrity of their data as well is in question. So even so what do we do? And we are a tourist travel nation. So it'll make it interesting in that sense of what they're going to do about our borders. Then again, as well as once we open, is a lot of corporations have had to reduce staff, obviously. But a lot of them will come and have a realization that we don't need to hold 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 staff. If we can do it virtually and we have to remove our footprint from a building and so forth, we're going to see a reduction of workforces and being more effective. But there might be more breakaways in businesses. So I think we're going to see a more focused, smaller set companies. They're going to run virtually compared to the brick and mortars that we see today. The normal pop-up stores, your mega miters, your grocery stores and so forth will be there. But I also think the way we do some of that will change. Every single person, whether they're liked or not, has ordered and done groceries online, a majority of people. And some have done it with a great success. So some people in great success have ordered groceries and had it delivered within 2 days. So going, okay, well, if that keeps on working, why would I change that of going out to the store? Why not spend my time out going for a walk or spend time with the family, then go and standing in a grocery store, for example? So there's sort of those things that might change in the way we go forward.
Yeah, and also all that can be automated. So if you set your grocery list up for once a week, and you want your loaf of bread, your eggs, your smoked salmon, if you're getting fancy, it will just get delivered to your door on the weekend. If there's a little change, then you tick a few boxes, put in your credit card details, and away you go. Right? I think there's going to be a lot of, data, automation, AI, like all that sort of cyberspace world, they'll blow up from this. But I think I have a feeling that some businesses will still want a physical presence. People like hanging out with people while they're on the journey or doing the work. I know I'm more productive when I'm with people who are doing the same thing. And it's just different when you're Zooming all the time, or when you're at home in your four walls. Like maybe I'm a bit old school like that, but it feels nice to be with the people that you're working with.
I think it's just that you feel nice being with people, irrespective of where it is. As humans, we crave affection, attention, not attention in a bad way, but we crave those that love and care and stuff like that. And I think the biggest thing that a lot of people are struggling with at the moment is not having that. So they relate it. Some people would relate it straight to back to work, going, "Hey, I don't have people around me because I'm not at work." But it's also we don't have people around us because we're not be able to move around freely. So I think if I say to you, you could be, for example, working virtually, and your lunchtime break, you could go down to the beach, go for a walk, you could go for the run, because some of us don't have the freedom to be based in the city right next to Victoria Park in Auckland, for example, or in other cities. You might be based in a dense office building that doesn't give you a lot of freedom at your lunchtimes and so forth. So as much as you're around people, you don't get that mental break from the work.
Yeah,
We're
sure.
virtually,
True.
you could have that opportunity. So that's where it's sort of an interesting shift to see how things are going to take it. There's going to be a percentage of people that's going to say, I want to be pure virtually from here on forward. There's me a percentage of people that's going to say, I want to be purely based in my office if I can. And then that's going to be the in-between space of how business becomes, let's use the very overused word, agile. The new agile mentality is not going to be how the way you deliver work, but it's how the way you actually work.
Yeah, there's you put very nicely. There's definitely going to be a challenge of thinking on the employer side and the employer side. Can we reduce costs for the employers, and can we give more flexibility to the employees? And I think this was just a test run that everyone had to jump ship. No one had a clue where this came from. We had 2 days to prepare, and then wham, we were at home. We had to isolate ourselves, make sure that we're tucked up in our houses, and then see how it went. And I think a lot of businesses, although they're not getting the revenue that they need for their overheads and wages and whatnot, they've had a real good go at virtual working. And hopefully it allows people to have those conversations in most workplaces.
Truly, if you look at one of New Zealand's flagship international companies, Fonterra themselves. So Fonterra, massive footprint. Obviously, the last couple of years haven't been as successful. Try to go overseas, realize the marketplace is massive. Had to come back indoors to try to be a more specific New Zealand brand. And in what is about a year ago, having a realization that their new office space down in Auckland City is too big what they need. There's too much of a footprint. They need to release it. This will be an interesting time to see that company that's obviously at the moment still producing, because they obviously produce milk, so their business hasn't slowed as such. Do they need that big footprint? Do their shareholders still allow them to sit there with one of the largest buildings in Auckland City that's newly built a few years ago that would be costing them, I don't know, unforeseen millions of dollars, and continue working that way when they're struggling to grow their revenue year on year? So this is where sort of challenges will come on from, where the public and the actual people that sit back behind and go, hey, hold on, you should be able to close up your brick and mortar to 1/5 the size, let the rest of the market be virtual, and you still have an open plan office when people want to come in. So sort of the employment contracts of today, when you started a new job in most places, the first thing a lot of young parents, moms, young dads ask is, do I have time to work from home? Do I have the freedom that if my kid does something, I can have that? I think the reverse is going to happen now, where it's going to be expected to be virtual, and the parents going to ask, can I have one day in the office to get away from, my family per se? And I think that's some of the switch that's going to happen. So you still have to offer, like you said, a small footprint of brick and mortar. But I think sort of those large corporations, I would, if I was a shareholder, if I was someone in those, even in the banks, I would be asking that question now, going, if you guys survived successfully through this process, let's use, for example, ASB's massive building in the Viaduct in Auckland. Why do you need that size building? Why do you need to spend the millions and millions on that building if you could have it and your employment accepts them to be virtual? Why not do that and remove the footprint, remove the traffic off the road and the pollution we're causing by having 5,000 or 10,000 people driving into the city?
Yeah, there's a few aspects there. I think the commercial property industry needs to rethink what's going to happen. And until it happens, we're not really sure. But obviously, they'll be shaking a bit, like everyone's having these conversations about everyone going virtual. But I think maybe a cool solution could be if you rent out floors by the amount of days that you actually have, that you have the workforce coming in. So if ASB wants their HR department to come in on a Monday, and then you've got your 0 people coming in on the Tuesday, and they just have these lockers on the side of the room where people can pack away their stuff. Everyone comes in as like a co-working virtual space of thing. And then, it's really flexible, and that way it reduces the cost for the big businesses, but also the commercial property owners and leaseholders. They can actually rent out that space because they're going to have to come up with the solution to all this as well.
That exists already.
Really?
That was I've used services like that before. So in 2019, there was a big virtual offices, pop-up offices, hiring an office for an hour, half an hour, or hiring an office for a week. Where my challenge comes on that is, before all of this situation, you had to be professional when you had a meeting. You had to be, sitting in an office space. We've learned that sitting at home in my jumper with my cup of coffee, with my desk behind me or my kitchen behind me is acceptable. So the mentality of we have to be corporate to have or run a business, I think needs to be removed, because we've seen successful situations now with people in all their situations sitting at life, whether they're sitting in a suitable location or not, work has continued. So the virtual hiring and coming in to look professional, I think is going to lose its edge. Companies are going to go, it's fine, just dial in wherever you are. Dial in from your phone, dial in from your laptop, whether you're sitting at your kitchen desk or you're sitting on your couch in your lounge because that's all you have. It has been acceptable.
Yeah, that's true to an extent. I personally think that environment matters, right? So if you walk into a zone and everyone's playing drum and bass and partying and stuff, it's very hard to get some work done. Whereas if you walk into an office space and everyone's being really productive and people are having meetings and there's coffee cafe around the corner, and you can have a meeting there and just have a bit of backwards and forth around a deal that you might be making. That peripheral stuff, we're humans, we're emotional creatures, that affects us to a high extent. So I think there will be a bit of flexibility around how you can work in terms of whether you work at home or in the office space. But I think those big businesses will be thinking, okay, how does this affect our productivity at the end of the day? And are we getting stuff done? If things are still getting done and you have a super productive workforce that are working at home, happy days. They're going to be away laughing. But if they're not, and they compare it to before we went into isolation, then they'll be challenging that sort of thinking. I think there will be flexibility, though.
Yeah, flexible would be the key. It is, like I said, we could talk for hours and hours on perception, understanding our consideration around this, but until we know, there's no ways, because every single business owner, every single corporation, every single government entity itself will go through its own judgment call once they come out, and being able to see a bit of the light at the end of the tunnel.
And it's up to the leadership team within those organizations to really drive and, I suppose, create a path to what those conversations look like.
Yes and no. I think that sometimes we forget that our leadership might be there for leaders, but they're so far up the food chain, they sometimes forget about the guy and the girl down on the floor, or guy and the girl down at the lowest level. I think as well is we need to be proud to stand up with our own voice, and say what we think, not say what we think we're entitled to, but say what we think should be considered, should looked at, and give our opinions. The last thing I want, and I totally dislike, is people coming out and having a total dislike or hate on something, but not giving, and then saying, but there's no reference to it. So going, someone gives the opinion A, I totally dislike A, it's rubbish, it's horrible, but they don't give a perception why their B is actually better, or what fundamental of it is of value. And I think this is where we need people to, once we get out of it, to stand up and say, I think this is a consideration we should look at. Here's the benefits from it. Here's the bonuses from it. And we could build, and we honestly have open discussion about it, because at the moment there's one way or the other way, and there's no middle ground and safe space for some people to have those discussions, because we jump on it too aggressively and we get too emotional because of our personal situations on it. We need to always allow freedom of speech.
Yeah, but that's very true.
Yeah, but allow us to be safe enough freedom, and allow us to have open discussion. because when we have open discussion as we're having now, there'll be points that I'll accept from you, there'll be points you accept from me, and we'll both walk away better educated, better understanding around both opinions, and then fundamentally allowing us to make a better judgment call on things we are going to do forward.
For sure. We've just had Mackenzie comment, how long are you going to be live for? I'd love to jump in, but need to finish my work from home, lol, before I can. So we might have a few more minutes. I'll wait for you, Mackenzie. I know Lawrence loves jumping on these things, so we'll just chat until the next person comes on, I suppose. Is that all right with you, Lawrence?
Yeah, that's all good with me. I've got
Sweet.
nothing else to do on this morning, so
cool.
That's what I'll come and see.
Yeah, just on the point you were talking to before, I think that when you work in big businesses or corporates, like there are those layers, and it's very susceptible to what you were saying. I've only worked in small businesses mainly, and so the voice of people throughout the organization gets heard very easily. So yeah, I guess we come at it from different views just because of our past experiences. But yeah, it's definitely interesting topics, and we can think about it all day around what the future will look like, because no one knows. No,
we're never going to know, and it's like I said, it's just we have to see what we have to see. We have to get through each state has to get through. I think also the other challenge at the moment is getting consumed too much by step 2 before we have clarity of our step 1. So let's use for the example, if everyone obviously is aware, on Thursday they made the announcement on what level 3 looks like. I went straight to people, to my family, and said, don't read any of the articles till end of next week, because they're going to take about a week to clarify a lot of stuff. And as we've seen, everything evolves day to day until they're close to the time. I think we should still focus on what we know. Let them give the government the time to clarify the certain things, and then when they make that call, obviously move forward. Yes, I can see these people shouting at me through the computer going, but I run a business. I have to be aware of it. I have to look at what my rights or what my conditions are. Totally. But we've got to give everyone space. It includes the people making the decisions. It includes the people trying to make the rules, because when they come out on day 1 with the 50 rules, excuse my French, there's going to be 50 idiots that's going to come up and ask 100 additional questions that have nothing to do with it. And they have to then spend their time working through all of that, so that on day 2, they can come back and go, we're still with these 50 rules. These 100, stuff here just goes away. And that's the sort of stuff where we have to give time and space, and we've got to focus on what we know right now.
For sure. Lawrence, you've been amazing. Any last thoughts? We've just had Mackenzie pop online, so we'll bring him into the show. Just to wrap up, last thoughts, feelings?
Fundamentally, I think everyone should just make sure we love, we care, respect, and we support each other. There's people going through the worst things they've ever experienced in their lives. There's people that might not be feeling that because they're living their lives as they would have done normally, just with a small few lockdown situations. Respect it, understand it, and fundamentally reach out to anyone that you think might need help, and just, care. That's all we can do.
Champion. Thanks so much, Lawrence. Much love.
Thanks, mate.
Have a good one. Mackenzie!
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
It's been a while.
Yeah, it has.
You've from what I'm seeing on socials, you've been traveling around the world. You've been to Canada a couple of times, had a few comedy gigs.
Well, I live in Canada now, so So it's Friday here now, which is why we're still working from home, unlike you guys.
What's the time over there?
It's 10 to 4 in the afternoon.
Sweet. So for the people out there, give the lowdown of what you're all about, how you came to be here, how you know me, where we cross paths, and we'll go from there.
So my name's Mackenzie. I'm 23 and I live in New Zealand, but I live in Canada, but I'm originally from New Zealand. I know Jason because we went to school together. He was a bit older than me though, a few years older. He was I think you were a prefect in my first year of the high school, and you were in year 13. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, I think so, because you were my brother's year. So I was year 13, you were year 9.
Yeah. So then Jason was my coach, in underwater hockey, and he did a very in my second year of high school, year 10, I think.
Best sport ever.
Yeah, exactly. I haven't played for a while though. And
neither have I, bro.
Sorry?
I'll let you. Neither have I, bro. I'll let you off the hook.
Yeah. And so I went to high school in New Zealand, and then I moved to Canada when I was 18 to attend the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. In Kelowna, BC, Canada. So there's 2 campuses, one in Vancouver, one in Kelowna. I took a Bachelor of Arts majoring in politics, philosophy, and economics, of which I graduated in June of last year. And yeah, thank you. And now I'm working for a company called Blogworks here, which is a small little business run as one guy owns it, me, and we got some writers. And basically we do, we work for companies and a lot of sort of, speakers and other different businesses and we write their blogs from their site for them. So we do like SEO search engine optimization, and we make sure we get the structuring right and things like that, and internal linking, because a lot of people don't really know how to do that properly. So and like the reason I wanted to jump into this call, because you guys were talking about working from home, is that in the business that I work for, Blogworks, we all of our writers have worked from home for the entirety of how long the company's been going on. So it's something that it was a lot easier for us to transition into that, and so it's something that I feel like I could probably add something to. So I just wanted to jump in.
You're in your element. This is
pretty much
day to day. Nothing's changed.
Yeah, I mean, so it was interesting because before all this happened, and I should give some background. Here in Canada, we're not on full lockdown, like you are in New Zealand.
So what's it look like over there?
So it's different between the provinces, because you have a federal government or like the main sort of national government, and then you have all the provincial governments. So the national government has some power, but the people who have like the main power over the province, so it's like the states in the US, are the provincial governments. So depending on which province you're in, depends on how much level of lockdown they are in. But I mean, Justin Trudeau basically got on TV about a month ago now, about the same time that maybe just before you guys went into lockdown.
Yeah.
And basically told everyone to stay inside, and among a bunch of other things. So, but at the moment here I'm in BC, so I'm fairly lucky because we've actually managed, out of all the provinces, we've managed to flatten the curve the most.
Wow.
Yeah, the middle of the country, the provinces there, they didn't get hit as hard because they don't have as many sort of major international airports. So places like Saskatchewan and things like that. On the east, further to the east coast, like Ontario and Quebec, they've been hit a bit harder because they're closer to the European, like closer to Europe. Plus, also they're just above New York, which has been absolutely,
they've been hammered.
Yeah, exactly. So they've sort of struggled a bit more. But BC's looking okay. It's not too bad. And even though we're not on, sorry, continue.
Oh, go on.
I was going to say because people seem to be actually following sort of, it's like the rules. They haven't had to do too much, like they haven't had to have the police go out and split people up and things like that, which is positive. So less people being idiots, pretty much.
Yeah, no, that's good. How much longer will you guys be in lockdown from what the news is saying?
They're thinking at least another month in BC.
To the levels that you're at the moment.
Yeah, so at the levels we're at the moment, because it's not like lockdown in New Zealand, whereas like, only the supermarket, if I'm correct, it's just supermarkets, banks, and like the hospital and pharmacies are still open in New Zealand.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And you can go out of your bubble. They call it bubbles over here, which is where you reside and the people in your bubble. You're allowed to go for runs in your local neighborhood, but nothing too risky. Don't go jumping off the local wharf or go hiking in the bush. It's just for exercise and a bit of state of mind. Get out, get some fresh air, and then return back home.
Yeah, so here it's not quite like that. So for example, like Starbucks is still open, but they only have drive-through. And like there's a driving range down the road that's still open and things like that. But it's just very much, a lot of the restaurants are closed and some stores are closed and things like that. and it was sort of left up to the discretion of the owner if they can make it. So any restaurants couldn't allow people to come and sit down. Like if they couldn't transition to takeout, they basically had to close them down. But yeah, I don't know. It will be interesting to see how long it takes for us to sort of go back to normal. My personal opinion is that, I mean, and you were talking about it earlier, the world in general is not going to go back. I don't think it's going to go back to normal at all. I don't think it's going to go back to what it was beforehand in terms of how restaurants work, how businesses generally work. I think you're going to see a lot more people moving to online in terms of not only restaurants moving to takeout or like business moving to trying to sell online more, but also like things like working from home. And I think what this has proven is that we can work from home. And I know you were having this discussion before, but what I wanted to touch on was the fact that the positives of working from home that come for people like, you know, who are like single parents and things like that, being able to work from home massively increases their ability to, like, it removes a bunch of this money that they're having to spend on childcare, firstly. And then secondly, it means that they can spend more time with their kids. You know, like you have a lot of single parents and a lot of parents who work from, I mean, I didn't have a single parent. I was lucky enough to live with both my parents, but they were both full-time workers. So I spent a lot of time after school, you know, at home by myself and things like that. And so the ability to work from home allows parents to spend more time with their kids, which has to be beneficial in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. More parent and child contact is always a good thing.
Exactly.
As long as you have a loving environment at home, I think it's definitely a big positive. I think that moving forward, there will just be that flexibility there, like we discussed a little bit a while ago. The employers will be more open to those conversations, and I think employees will be challenging that, because we've had a month where potentially it's working, or at least we've been able to test it out.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's the best way to sort of test the mechanisms and the institutions you have in place is to just come out of nowhere, sort of throw everyone into a different situation and see if everything still works.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Are you in Canada long term, or you're planning to return to New Zealand at some point?
I quite like it here. I'm probably going to be here for the long term, it appears, or at least because I want to go to grad school or do my master's, and I'll probably do that
in politics and economics.
Yeah, public policy.
Right.
I want to do public policy. So I'll probably at least stick around for that and sort of see where life takes me at the moment. I'm currently living with my girlfriend, so it sort of also just depends. She's still in school as well, so it sort of depends on where what she's doing as well. Assuming all stays wholesome in that sphere, but yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Long may it continue.
Yeah, exactly. Frozen. Oh no. Well, hope everyone's doing well. I'm not really sure if I'm just live by myself at the moment, but this is going. So it looks like I'm live by myself. So yeah, This is no longer the Daily Jase live show. It's the Daily Mackenzie show, but not so daily because there he is.
Bro,
Yeah.
the whole world's melting down and my tech just gave up the ghost.
I know. I wasn't
happened.
sure if it was my end or your end.
No, I think it was my end. Sorry about that. When you go live, like, and the curtains have rolled to the side and it's live and everything's all go, the camera's rolling, like, sometimes these things just happen, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no, I
A
get it.
spanner in the works. But
Yeah.
as we're saying, I didn't want to interrupt you. Where were we? We're talking about your company. How many employees have you got?
So at the moment we've got it's a pretty small company. It's the founder, a man called Hugh Culver, and then myself, and I'm the manager of operations and client services. And then we have 12 writers and social media content creators underneath that. And so Hugh and I work in the office together. Well, we did work in the office together, but currently we're both working from home. And then the writers all work sort of around Canada. So there's a couple in BC, there's one in Quebec, there's a couple in Ontario, and a couple in Alberta. And yeah, so it's a pretty small company. We do blog writing for companies. We do social media content creation. So basically, depending on which service we provide to them, we will post it X amount of times on their Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn profiles, or their company profiles and things like that. And then for blog writing, we do a few different services. We'll do a brand new original article for you, and at certain times per month, we'll also certain amounts per month we can do what we call the repub strategy, which is republishing articles. So basically, if you have a blog that you've had for 10 years or say, you're going to have a massive catalog of articles from 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago that are just sitting there doing nothing on your site. So we'll go into those, find the ones that have the best potential, and then optimize those and then republish them. So they're still in the same link, they're still the same article. So if you've ever been on an article and it says at the bottom, this was originally published in 2015 but has been updated, same idea. So what that means is that if it's already been indexed by Google, so it's already going to have traffic coming to it. And then once we optimize it even more, it's just going to build on that, which is almost beneficial to writing a brand new article, because the brand new article goes live and then Google has to find it, index it, and then start pushing it up onto people's search results, right? So that's sort of what we do. And then we'll write from your draft and things like that. So if a client has a draft but they want us to optimize it, then we'll do that and things like that as well.
Oh, man. Awesome. Yeah. Shifting sideways a little bit, what's on the post-isolation bucket list?
The post-isolation, I just want to get back doing comedy.
Yeah?
To be honest.
How often do you do that?
I've been doing stand-up comedy for just over 3 years now. And I have when the world was still working normally, I was doing it, 3 to 4 times a week. So go up on an open mic every week, do a couple shows on the weekend, depending on, and so those would be, so the open mic would be like a free show. So it's just where everyone gets up and tries their new stuff. And then on like a Friday and a Saturday, there's a place in Kelowna that we where one of the guys runs a room, and so there's 2 shows a night there. And then so you get up and do a show, and depending if you're, an opener or if it's a showcase or things like that, it depends on how much time you're doing. So if it's a showcase, everyone does like 7 to 10 minutes. If you're a headliner, you'd be doing 45 to an hour. If you're co-headlining, you're doing about half an hour, that kind of thing. But yeah, about 3 to 4 a week, 3 or 4 shows a week.
Yeah. Ali, is it a hobby or a long-term commercial play, and you want to make it a lifestyle?
I think you couldn't continue doing comedy if you never dreamed about one day making it big. Whether or not
is that what you want to do?
I'd love to. I mean, I would love to, even if I just got to a point where if I was able to, pay for, be able to pay to, live, being able to afford to live off comedy, touring around for 4 or 5 years, and then I gave it up after that, I would be perfectly happy. I'm not expecting to get a Netflix special anytime soon.
Yeah.
But
you never know. Keep at it.
Yeah.
Someone might see you somewhere and love what you're about, and that's all it takes, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it is something that is really hard to stop doing after doing it so much.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like exercise, right? It's almost an addiction.
Yeah.
Because when I used to do theatre for years, and when I did theatre, at the end of the play or the end of the musical or whatever, you'd get on stage, everyone would come on stage, and the audience gives you a round of applause, and it's a great feeling, and everyone did well, assuming the musical went well. But if you do stand up, and you're on stage in front of 100, 10, 20, 50, 100, 200, 1,000 people, it doesn't matter. If you're on stage and everyone's laughing at the joke that you wrote and you performed, it is the single greatest feeling you'll ever have in your entire life, because it's the rush. And the opposite of that is when you get on stage and you tell a joke and the room of 10, 20, 50, 100, 1,000 people doesn't laugh. It is the worst feeling you'll ever have in your life.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for comedians, because like they're just putting themselves out there. It's a very hard industry to crack. And the ones who have made it, you just know they've been up struggle street, and they've kept at it for years and years. And there's no playbook around how you should manage your time or get on that upward curve. Like, you've just got to figure it out, right?
Yeah, and I think with comedy, it's one of those things that the more hours you put in, the better you get. If you're doing comedy, I mean, it's the same with anything, right?
Yeah.
But if you're doing comedy once a month, it's never going to happen for you. But if you're doing, some of the big names that now, people like, just any of the big names, like, Joe Rogan, Tom Segura,
Ricky Gervais.
Rock. Yeah, exactly. Even the guys in New Zealand, like Rhys Darby and Rose Matafeo and Guy Williams and things like that, they will have put in. They would have been before they got big, and it's harder in New Zealand because the scene's not as big. But especially the guys in America, like, they will have been doing 7-8 shows a night, because they can go Sorry.
Hard work works. That's all it comes down to.
Exactly.
Consistent hard work works.
Yeah.
Like, people, I think a lot of people, they just want a silver bullet. There's like, all these people buy my ebook to find out the secrets to become the best comedian and skyrocket your career. Find my helpful hints. Like, those silver bullets don't exist. And all the content that you could ever want is at your fingertips on the internet. So anyone who's like trying to sell you the secret, you can just find it for free. I think people don't want to work hard. Like, put in the hours. They might get a spark of inspiration when they first start out, but like, you quickly figure out once you're on the journey whether it's right for you, because there's more hardships than those potential gains. And then once you've made it, like, you just think of a new goal, right? You'd never quite make it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting with comedy, you mentioning how there's so much content out as well. What's become hard with comedy is that, like, 30 years ago, stand-up comedy, if you wrote a joke, it's probably more than likely no one will have done that joke before, right? Whereas now, not only do you have a ton of stuff on YouTube, a ton of stuff on Netflix, but people make memes, people post stuff on social media, and it's hard to then, it's happened to me. I've written a joke, gone to an open mic, told the joke, and then someone's come up to me, one of the other comics, and been like, by the way, that's from there. And
is there quite toxic environment around there? I imagine people point the finger saying, you can't use that joke, like, that's my buddies over there, like, or I saw that on the internet from one of the big comics. There must be a bit of like to and fro around that, right?
I mean, yes and no. It depends. I mean, the scene in Kelowna is there's about 20 to 25 of us, and we all get on pretty well. And so it'll be one of those things where someone will, like, if you tell a joke and it's been done before, and someone will usually come up to you and be like, hey, by the way, like, this joke's been done before, it's from here or whatever, you probably shouldn't tell it again. And that conversation is always super chill. It's always, unless the person being told that they've stolen a joke or whatever, or taken a joke, it gets like sort of aggressive about it. Because most of the time you don't realize, like, I'll read something on the internet, and then like 2 weeks later, I'll think of a joke, and be like, that's hilarious, and write it down, not realizing where it's actually come from. And so people like get called out. So like if you get called out for it and then you never tell that joke again, then it's not an issue. No one, no one's going to give you a hard time about it. But if you continue to tell it, that's when it can get a bit kind of weird,
Yeah, for sure. Do you write all your like jokes down and come up with them in your head and then go out on stage, and or is it more on the fly? You sort of improvise, feel the room, and get everyone going, and you sort of weave in and out of different topics. What's the process for you?
It's a bit of both. Like no comic will get on stage. I mean, very few comics will get on stage with no set list. Like they'll have an idea of what jokes they're going to tell. It's the key is being able to make the audience believe that you are coming up with it on the fly, that you're just having a conversation. That's the key to it. It can't seem too staged. But like, I don't know how much comedy you've watched, but have you seen anything by John Mulaney?
No, I haven't.
Yeah. If you get a chance, he's an excellent comic. He was a writer for Saturday Night Live and things like that. But he's got a couple Netflix specials. And if you watch his specials, it seems like he's just talking off the top of my head. But the thing is with John Mulaney is that he writes, not only because I mean, most comics will write like they'll have notes. So they'll have like the name of a joke and they'll know it's like a tag, right? Yeah. So they'll know, okay, so this is the tag, this is the joke I have to tell in their head. But what this guy does is he writes everything out word for word and learns it word for word.
Oh, wow.
And then like you couldn't tell, right? Like he'll know an hour special word for word and you wouldn't be able to tell that it was written word for word because of the way he presents it.
Yeah.
So, and then there's also,
check him out.
Yeah. But I mean, it also depends. Like if you're in a bar, like I perform a lot of times in like some dingy little back room in a bar, you're going to get drunk people and you're always going to have people heckling. So you have to be on your feet and you have to be able to jump out of pre-written material and into just being able to think on top of your head when that happens, right? And the best way to do that is to sort of, if someone heckles you, is to not just like say the first thing that comes out of your head in response, because usually it's not very good. Like it's, the best thing is to heckle. If someone heckles you, you pick up your beer, you take a sip or your water or your pop or whatever, take a sip, think, like internalize it, let it sit with the audience. You can even ask them, even if you did hear it, be like, hey, what was that? And so if they're
give you just a moment to pause, he can take a deep breath to double check if he wants to say again and put his name to it.
Exactly. And because the thing is when people heckle you, it's like sometimes they don't even realize that they've heckled you. Like you'll say something and they'll just say something because
they're just showing off to their mates, or they're like in a moment and have a lapse of judgment.
Exactly. Or they'll just like,
is there any funny comedy stories that you're happy to share about someone heckling or maybe you bombed one night when you thought you would do real well, or
I mean,
some little anecdote that you're happy to share of your time on stage?
I mean, talking about bombing, I mean, we've all bombed. Bombing is one of the least fun experiences you'll ever have, but as a comic, but it's also like the biggest learning curve, right? So when I first started doing comedy, usually when you start, you do pretty well because you're kind of fresh. If you're like confident enough, like you'll get on a good roll. But after you've been doing it for a while and you have your first few times that you've bombed, it really hurts because you're used to getting laughs, you're used to doing well, and then when it doesn't go well with the jokes that were doing well before, it's hard to sometimes bounce back from that. So there was like a guy who started around the same time as me who was amazing. He was really good at writing comedy and he would kill every time, and then he bombed really hard, and then he never came back because he couldn't handle it. And I think but it's once you've bombed a few times, you sort of learn to accept rejection. You know what I mean? And once you learn to accept rejection, it's much easier. And so the bomb that I had that made me learn to accept rejection was when I was doing a show at a bar here in town, a different one to what I would usually perform at though. And basically everyone got up and no one was doing well. And for that show, we got paid. We got a split of the door. We got 3 free drinks and a free meal. But to get that payment, you had to hit a certain amount of time. So you had to hit 10 minutes. You couldn't be under. If you were under, then you didn't get paid. And I remember I went up there and I had my jokes on the list and my tags, and I had about 12 minutes worth of material tagged. And that when you write that down, you're including like, applause breaks or laughter breaks or gaps in between the jokes. But no one was doing well. There was a birthday table at the back of the bar who were just not interested in the comedy, and they were all talking and chatting over each other and things like that. So I got up and I was just no laughs. I got through all my material and it was like 6 minutes in, and I was like, and because there was just no breaks in between. And so I just had to keep going, and it was like one of the worst feelings of my entire life. But afterwards I got off stage and I was like, nothing can be worse. No bomb can be worse than that. Yeah. So every time now that I get on stage and a joke doesn't land, I'm like, okay, move on to the next joke.
A 10-minute bomb.
Yeah, it was.
Set your course straight.
It was awful. It was.
Yeah.
It's worse than losing nationals final.
Yeah, it's interesting when like people face like these times of like embarrassment, and it may not even be embarrassing. Maybe it's just in their head that they think they stuffed up big time, and they can't return to that same space.
Yeah.
Like it's like some people like love that negative feedback when it happens. They're just like, let's do the next one. I'm gonna smash it.
Yeah.
It's just I think it's such an interesting personality trait, and I totally agree with you when you do something that you aren't quite proud of. Like it's just like a mental reset, right? It gets you going again.
Yeah, exactly. And it's it is also a certain level of, and it's interesting with comedy as well because it highly depends on the audience. Because like the reason when you watch a Netflix special or things like that, all those people in that room have bought tickets to go to see this one person. So the idea that person's going to do badly is it's very unlikely that they're going to do badly because everyone's paid to see them. As a nobody in comedy going into a room of people who don't know me, it's room to room. A joke can be. I had a joke that the first time I ever told it got a standing ovation. The second time I ever told that joke, I had a room of 100 people dead silent, and then like cringing because the joke didn't fit the room. And so it's really hard for people, particularly when they start comedy, to write a joke that then does well, and then for it to do badly. Because when it goes badly, they're like, what did I do wrong? What was the and they can't accept the fact that it's out of their control. And so when they think everything's in their control, it's like, well, then they freak out about it. Whereas if you accept the fact that it's not in your control, you can just do your best. Then once you get on stage and if a joke bombs, you're just like, okay, and you move on to the next joke. And the audiences respond to that, because if you tell a joke and it doesn't do well, and then you panic or you keep trying to push it or something like that, then the audience isn't going to respond to that. Whereas if you get up, tell a joke, it doesn't do well, and you just, and you blow it off and you keep going, and you sort of move away from that topic as well. Because I've seen, the cardinal sin of comedy is to tell a joke, it doesn't do well, and just to keep pressing the point just to see if you can make them laugh. And it never goes well. But if you can just blow it off, then they're more likely to respond to you, because they're more likely to see that you're comfortable in the position you're in, that if you're comfortable, they'll feel more comfortable. And then you can sort of, build it from there. And that's also a time when you can, if a joke doesn't do well, when you can sort of jump into sort of, talking to the audience, or freeballing it almost, rather than doing scripted material, because then it brings them back into it, the audience back into it,
For sure. Yeah. I'm going to jump into a totally different topic.
Go for
hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Have you jumped into hockey at all over in Canada?
Well, so I actually played for Canada at Worlds. Yeah. So when I first
say that, actually, that's awesome.
When I first moved here, I'd kind of so back when I first still lived in New Zealand, I trialed for the under-19s, and then didn't make it. And so I moved here, and I'd kind of accepted that my hockey journey was over. I was like, I might play a little bit. I knew there was a club in Vancouver, which is a 4-hour drive away. But that was about it.
Yeah.
And my second year of university, so first year I did very little hockey.
Yeah.
Second year I was here, and they were looking for people to go to Hobart for Worlds, and so they had a message up on the Canadian Underwater Hockey page, and it was basically, if there's anyone under 23 who's interested in playing for this team, contact the coach here and let them know. So I emailed the coach and I said, "Hi, my name's Mackenzie. I've been playing underwater hockey in New Zealand high school for I think it was like 8 years at the time or something." And he emailed back and he was like, instantly was like, "Welcome to the team," because they just don't have age group level players there.
You took the New Zealand skills and you made it into the Canadian team.
Exactly, and it sort of shows. We had a guy. I mean, for example, we had a guy in our team.
He coached you well.
We had a guy in our team who'd been playing for 6 months when he went. So by the time he made it to the under 23 men's World's Championship, he'd been playing underwater hockey for a year. Which you can imagine going up against some of the other players from the other countries. It is, there's a bit of a step up there.
Just a totally different landscape.
Exactly. So it was an interesting experience because I went from being, I mean, you coached me. I was a Wellington B player. Like I was all right, but I wasn't like amazing. I wasn't like, I wasn't your Nick Healy's or anything like that.
Yeah, but people go through different phases. Like, I'll tell you like a little bit about my experience when I was, I think in year 11, I made the Wellington Bees, right? So I wasn't the best by far. In fact, this is what happened. So I didn't make the Wellington Bees. Someone broke their arm, and then I made the Wellington Bees, right?
Nice.
So I was literally the last call-up. Like I shouldn't have been in that team if that dude didn't break his arm. I went to regionals and we got smashed. Like we weren't a good team. I came up against a few of these New Zealand rep players, and like they tore right through me and through our team. And I think we came like 6 out of 7 teams, something like that at regionals. I really enjoyed it because like it was a huge challenge. I'd never faced any teams like that I'd ever done. And then we went home, battered and bruised, but kind of in good spirits. We knew we weren't there to win. We were there to sort of learn the ropes and understand where our hockey was at in the grand scheme of things. It was a bit of it was a piece of humble pie, right? So they selected the New Zealand trialists as they normally do. But then a couple of weeks later, they made a call out from the New Zealand coaches saying, okay, so we're going to make an open trial. Anyone who was at regionals could put their name in the hat and come along to the trials if they wanted to. So I saw it just as a learning curve, right? Didn't expect to make the team, but I suppose it just made me want to learn as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So I trained pretty hard for it. I learned all the skills. I came up against these super good players, and my hockey level went from like bottom of the pack to like a reasonable level. And I actually made the team that year, and I was the youngest there. And the rest, I made a few New Zealand teams after that. So like people go through different phases, it's not like, and people drop out for different reasons. No one's space is safe in those teams, No one has a right to be there if they haven't been training. It's all based on skill, and I think that's like anything. Like it's like what you were saying before. Hard work works, and then sometimes at the end of the day, you may not be the right person for that career. You might just not have the talent. I'm not going to be the next Steven Adams. I'm not built that way, and similarly, no one can be the next Daily Jase, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, everyone has their own things going on, but as long as you enjoy the journey, it doesn't matter, right? It's cool that you made the Canadian team. That's awesome. And did you go to Worlds in Spain?
No, in Hobart.
Yeah, Hobart. Awesome. That's a long way from Canada.
Yeah,
well, that was the same distance as Spain.
Roughly. Yeah, well, it was interesting as well because for the team is like I came into the setup pretty fresh, and I think the biggest difference between New Zealand underwater hockey and Canadian underwater hockey is that you have in New Zealand, if you want to have a training camp, you can, because you have a training camp you could have a training camp every month because everyone's pretty close together. Whereas in Canada, because particularly a lot of the players are on the East Coast, I think I may have trained with the team maybe or done like we played in a couple competitions and things like that internally in Canada. And I think I played or trained with the team 4 weekends before, like over the space of like 6 months before we went to Worlds, because I was the only one in BC. The coach was in Calgary, and then everyone else was in Ontario or Quebec. And so it's it's a 5-6 hour flight from Vancouver to Toronto. And so it was much different to the experience that I had in the few training camps that I did in New Zealand, because, I was training, leading up to Worlds for, however many months it was. I was training by myself every day with no one to play hockey with, no one to even do fitness with. And it was hard because it's hard.
That's a slog.
Yeah, it's hard to bring. And, me, I got pretty fit for me. I was the fittest I'd ever been by the time we got to Worlds. But, for me, fitness has always been the thing that was always my sort of difficulty when it came to hockey. Like, I had a good breath hold. My skill level was all right. But for me, it was like just driving myself to do the fitness.
What position were you playing at that time?
So when we actually got to Worlds and all the way through the lead up to Worlds, I was playing goalie at an under 23 level, which for having played wing or back or whatever my entire career, it was a bit of a shift. But when we got to Worlds, my play style and how I played goalie didn't really work within how we were going to have to play at Worlds. Because when we'd played in the internal competitions in Canada, we were actually pretty high up. We always did pretty well. We were competing with like the men's teams and things like that because the general skill level is not as high as it is in New Zealand at Worlds or things like that. But when we got to, so I was able to be a bit more aggressive. I didn't have to hang back as much. But when we made it to Worlds, it was we realized it wasn't going to work, so I switched to wing for I think after the second game we switched, and then I played one more game at goalie against Turkey so we could rest our goalie, which was not fun.
Yeah, I heard Turkey's come up the ranks. Like they've got some funding behind them, and they're like playing skillfully, and they're getting these like pro players in.
Well, what I heard was that one of the guys pretty high up in the Turkish government plays, and so he was able to just funnel a ton of funding into the sport. And
it's
so
not
people,
what you know.
Sorry,
it's not what you know.
Well, exactly. It's like, and so they were all able to get 2-3 months off work or whatever leading into the tournament to just go on a training camp.
That's so awesome. Like, I'm so happy for them.
Yeah.
Like, if New Zealand ever could put funding towards hockey, it would be awesome, mate. Like, I'm happy for anyone that gets some funding.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely great, but it was interesting as well because like a lot of their at that Worlds, I know that a lot of their under 23 men's team were also elite players. And so it was like they were a strong team that I think they won that year, if I remember correctly, because they faced France in the final and then they won, if I remember. It was a couple of years ago now. But yeah, they were a good team and they were huge. They were like all 6'3", just like jacked. And it was a hard game.
I remember there was this game that I played, or I went over to Trans-Tasman's in Melbourne, right? And it was my first Trans-Tasman's, my first New Zealand team. Like I was bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, sort of innocent, didn't know what I was getting myself into. And we rock up to the pool for our first training, and we see one of the men's teams there, right? And they're the Barbarians teams from Europe, right? So they come in and they're some of the biggest dudes and most cut, lean, muscular, all that good stuff. Like they just walked in the pool and I was just like, holy moly, we're not in Porua pool anymore. We are at Trans-Tasman's. This is the real deal, right? So like here we are, an under-19s New Zealand team. We're a lot of the team, I can safely say, they were a bit big-headed. They were the top of their game in their age group in New Zealand, right? And they sort of treated like royalty in schools and what have you. That brought us back down to earth. Like seeing that team play, where that was pretty much the best in Europe, had turned up to Trans-Tasmans just as an invitational team. And they were good. They were very good. And we had our heads, I guess our head size came from being ginormous to like, okay, we're just small fry. We've got to actually pull our heads in a little bit.
Yeah, and international hockey is so much different to anything else you ever experienced as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, like I played in a couple national finals, like high school, like high school level. But even we had a game. So when we went to Worlds, we lost every game. And as it goes. But our best games, like our closest games, were against the United States, and so we played them the very first game of the round robin, and I think we lost 3-2 or something. And then we played them in the 9th and 10th playoff, and we were 2-0 down at halftime. Then we pulled it back to 2-2. Then it went to overtime, and it was like 10 minutes of overtime or something like that. And then we did overtime, and we went 4-2 down in the first half of overtime, and in the second half of overtime we brought it back to 4-4, and then it went to sudden death overtime.
Holy moly!
I think by the end of the game, and this is 9th and 10th playoff, and and
that's just as exciting. You're a bit sad for not like getting on medal position, but your last game, you have to go out on a high.
Yeah,
no matter how well or not well the rest of the tournament has been, the last game is the one that counts. I hate second place. I hate it. It's the worst. And you have to lose your last game.
And we had the whole, Canada versus United States thing going on. And in the pool next to us was the under-23 women's Canadian team against the under-23 US women's team. And so it was in their playoff. And so it was hilarious. It was crazy because they played and they finished. And I think the Canadians team won. But because we were taking so long, they couldn't keep playing the other games. And so everyone was just watching this game. And it was crazy.
And the US and Canada must have a relationship like Australia and New Zealand, right?
It's exactly the same.
Yeah, that rivalry, and no matter what happens to the rest of the teams, we've got to beat Australia.
Exactly.
Like we've got to win Worlds. That's like number one. Number two, very close second, beat Australia. Right.
And it was hilarious at Worlds as well. I remember because you know how obviously for example, New Zealand referees can't ref the New Zealand games, right?
Yeah.
But because I was playing for the Canadian team, I was getting reffed by all the New Zealand referees, and Anton was one of the refs at that Worlds.
Oh, true.
And he sent me out like 2 or 3 times, and every time he would call me by name. And there was one time in particular I remember I had it in our own corner, and I was against Colombia, or no, it was Argentina, because Anton sent me out twice against Argentina. And then I swam into the corner, the guy comes up to me, and you know how when you at hockey you can if you turn on someone you can kick them in the face and it's legal because
you sort of learn not to get kicked in the face.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Well, if you get kicked in the face, it's your own fault.
Yeah. Well, I made the mistake.
It's meant to be non-contact, but in reality,
that's not true. I remember I swum it in, and then this guy came in, and I think there was 20 seconds left of the half or something, so I was just kind of trying to run it down, and this guy comes in and he's trying to get in there, so I just kicked out at him, and Anton immediately stops the play, pulls me to the surface, and goes, "Mackenzie, you can't do that." And I was like, okay, and then just sent me out for 5 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever.
Well, there's less than 20 seconds in the game left.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, Anton.
Yeah, things that happen in hockey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Some people play pretty dirty, even at top level. It shouldn't happen.
I'm not going to name names, but there are some people who come to mind when you say that.
Yeah. We're not here to name and shame. But, not a good path to take, but definitely, and I'm sure it's with a lot of sports, I could talk hockey all day. I haven't been in the pool for probably a good, 5-6 years, but yeah, it was a fun time. It was a
Mhm.
cool chapter. You know?
Yeah, exactly. That's how I like to see it. Like, it's a cool chapter in my life, but I think, I mean, I could definitely jump in the pool now, but my lungs would definitely not be anywhere near that they were.
Oh,
And I think
mine would explode.
yeah, exactly. Like, you can be as fit as you want, but underwater hockey fitness is a completely different aspect.
One breath
Like,
hockey,
yeah,
it takes months to produce.
exactly.
Yeah, it's another world. Did they play 2-3-1 in Canada?
So they just started playing 2-3-1 when I got
Or were
there.
they playing before?
Oh, I can't remember what it was. I think it was. I can't remember. It's been a while now, but it was some weird formation. I mean, it was. I think it was a variation on that one that what's his name created, the big hairy guy who was like one of the big Benson. Right. It was.
Oh, yeah.
It was. You remember that one that Benson created, which was like that
I don't know.
weird.
What did he create? Because I wasn't in his club. I've been coached by him a couple of times, but
Mhm.
I don't remember a special formation he did with us.
I mean, all I know is that in my like last year of high school, he trained his Wellington College team to play it.
Yep.
But I couldn't remember. I mean, it's been like 2-3 years since I played hockey in general, so
Right.
it's been a while. But yeah, they played some weird variation. But when I got there, they were starting to integrate 2-3-1 into everything, which was really good for me because I knew it
You
hands
an
down.
expert.
Yeah. So and it was, and they were, they were trying to teach swings and things like that around the backs. The biggest stepping stone for me personally was that they called things completely different. Everything was called something completely different.
Yeah,
So they
to learn a new set of jargon.
Yeah, exactly. But it was an interesting experience, and I actually ended up, because of my experience, ended up being the vice captain of the team, which was kind of crazy.
Oh, good on
But,
you. Good on you. Any last thoughts or feelings for the show before we sign off? It's been an hour 36 on the show. Not you personally, but I've been here and I've got a boost pretty shortly.
Fair enough. I would say everyone just make sure you're staying at home, being safe. I think there's been a lot of this sort of, it's obvious, people are overplaying how bad the virus is and things like that. And so we should be allowed to go outside. And I think what I would say to those people is like, the reason why you think it's being overblown is because the measures that we're taking are working. And I think you just need to hold on. The best way I can describe it is that, in World War I, World War II, the government took control of everything, shut everything down. And that was because we were at war. And we're at war again. We're just at war with a virus. And that's, if everyone took that perspective and everyone understood that, then I think we'd be able to get this through a lot quicker with a lot less of the, I won't say, BS that has been going around over the last week or so. And I think we should just stick to our guns, be safe, keep everyone safe. Just because you don't think you can get sick doesn't mean you can't make other people sick. There are a lot of people who are immunosuppressant, and so that, enjoy everything. That
Good
life.
message. Thanks, Mackenzie. Sorry
too.
about the tech meltdown in the middle there, but it's been a bit of fun. Cool to hear your voice again. Haven't connected in a few years, so stay safe in Canada. Hopefully the borders will open soon once again so you can visit home.
Exactly, yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right, mate.
All right.
Peace out.
Yeah,
See you later. Man.
Thanks.
Cool. So that was the first Daily Jase live show, Saturday call-in public show. It's been pretty cool. I've enjoyed having a few people on the podcast. We had Sam, my brother, and then we had Lawrence. He's a champ, and then just before Mackenzie. But I think this will become maybe a regular occurrence, maybe on a weekly basis. That'd be quite cool, just to touch base with everyone. If everyone wants to give their 2 cents on any topic that's top of mind, then they have the space to do so, and it's just a good way to connect with the rest of the world. Shout out to everyone who came on board. Hope everyone's safe at home, all staying in their bubbles. It'll be over hopefully soon enough. The announcement comes out in 2 days' time if we are coming out of level 4 over the next week. So brace yourselves. Hopefully it comes, but if not, we've done a pretty good job so far. So it's being effective in New Zealand, and I think that yeah, we just have to take it as it comes. Stay safe, take care, kia kaha, peace out. That's it from me.